get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down. Get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down.
Shout out Young Swish.
Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Sit Down Morning Show with Malik Wright, presented by the Wright Sports Network, TWS, and I'm your host, Malik Wright, joined as always by my co-host, my best friend, my main man, 𝗦𝗢𝗢𝗪. Got a lot of stuff to get into, a lot of stuff to talk about. But before we do, make sure you guys do us a huge favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys never miss when we go live or when we upload content from the TWSN studios. Remember, there's also not a Friday here at TWSN without Fantasy Football Fridays, so we'll be joined later in the show by O'Hara and Bradshaw. I said Bradshaw. For your starts and sits for fantasy football this week. And my man Evan and I will be discussing some UFC. But first and foremost, we've got to start it off in Cincinnati. The Cincinnati Bengals upset the Pittsburgh Steelers last night in a game in which, I think many were calling the Unk Bowl, right? But when you look at everything and how the Bengals team looked, when we talk about signature wins or wins that can change the course of your season or get people to start to believe, this was one of those victories. I've got more that I want to say, but I'm going to let Daniel give his thoughts. Daniel?
Yeah, man. I mean, first off, round of applause to this team in general. This is why you play the game. This is why the fans show up, right? Thursday night football, prime time against a divisional opponent. And when you look at the stands, it's filled with Bengals fans. Despite being 2-4, they were in the stands. They were showing up for the team. And this is why you show up, right? You show up to win the game, but not only win the game, you show up for moments, right? When every single person tunes in, at least when I tune in and watch football on Sundays, Thursdays, Mondays, and watch sports in general, you're waiting for those moments. You're waiting for those things that you can tell your friends about. You can tell everybody about and say, hey, did you see this? Did you see what happened? Last night was a moment for the Cincinnati Bengals team. And just to start it off, you have to give a shout out to the Cincinnati Bengals organization for how much crap I give them, for how much crap that they get on social media. You have to look at what transpired not only in this game but beyond, and how this can kickstart the Cincinnati Bengals for the rest of the season. And this is why you pay Ja'Marr Chase. This is why you pay T. Higgins and you don't trade him for draft picks. This is why you go out and sign a free agent in Dalton Risner. This is why you go out and sign a tight end in Noah Fant when you have a good tight end room. This is why you go out and trade for Joe Flacco, despite only having 2 wins on the season, despite him being 40 years old, and despite the fact that you gave up a 5th-round pick. That was the conversation. I think it's important to stay there for a second of, hey, what was the conversation when they traded for Joe Flacco? It was, oh, you gave up a 5th-round pick. That was too much. Your season's over. We should be tanking. And while this doesn't mean that the Cincinnati Bengals are in the playoffs, this doesn't mean that they are going to win games in the future, but at least it gives your fans hope. And that is something that when you hear the conversation about the Bengals of old wouldn't do this, wouldn't do that. Regardless, the Bengals of new went out and traded for Joe Flacco. And that alone has given this fan base hope. That alone has given this city hope. And that is a damn good sight for Cincinnati Bengals fans and the organization right now, because there was a lot of doom and gloom, and there should still be a lot of concern with the upcoming schedule. But the fact that you have Joe Flacco, you look at this team and you look at how they're rallying around him. I mean, this is a dude who went out 31 completions, 360 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions on prime time. This was as good of a performance as you can put up at the quarterback position. And for me, my favorite part is the fact that you gave your guys a shot. You paid Ja'Marr Chase, $160 million. You paid T. Higgins the bag. This is why you pay them. You just give them a shot. Ja'Marr Chase, 16 receptions. T. Higgins, you're giving him 50-50 balls up against Jalen Ramsey one-on-one. That's why you pay him the big bucks. You pay him the big bucks so he can go out and make a big play on the biggest stage, and that's what they did. And I do think that this has signs of potential life for this Bengals team. I mean, you saw Joe Burrow on the sidelines. This is somewhat of a good omen, showing, hey, we can at least put up a functional offense without Joe Burrow. And there's a lot we can talk about with this game. I think one of the biggest things for me that I learned from this game specifically was how this offense can improve even with the Joe Burrow, the under the center stuff. It worked. The first touchdown, or one of the touchdowns to T. Higgins, was under center, and it wasn't even a play action. It was hike the ball, go from under center. The defense safeties kind of creep in because, like, what the hell? Under the center. And you hit T. Higgins, he goes off for the touchdown. This offense finally showed some consistent signs of life, and that is something that gives me definitely some hope. Looking at the rest of the entire team, I mean, the defense, it's the turnovers for me. DJ Turner, Dax Hill wasn't targeted, I believe, a single time, but DJ Turner, interception, pass deflection. Those are your two cornerstones. Those are guys that you got to go run to the bank at some point this offseason and pay those guys, because you found two guys that you can build around. You found two guys that can play with the best of them. DK Metcalf, one of the best receivers in the NFL. DJ Turner did his thing against them. So this should give the Bengals fans some hope. And while it was a close game, and while it didn't look great at the end, Pat Freiermuth, 6-yard touchdown, your offense looked cool, calm, composed. And they went out and they led a game-winning drive. And it was a sign, and it was a benefit to your great wide receivers. So shout out to the Cincinnati Bengals. Shout out Zac Taylor. I think he did a very good job with the offense. The job is not done, but you got the job done for one game. And we talked about this on the show before, but this is how you could potentially turn the season around. We ain't packing in anything yet. It ain't over. And the Bengals should not be packing anything. And Jamar Chase, you saw these boys on the podium with, you know, everybody after the game. They got some smiles on their face, man. And that's how you potentially lead the rest of the season. You lead it with positivity. And this is a very good omen for the Cincinnati Bengals team. So there's more I could get into, but very big win, regardless of how it looked at the end of the game. Big time win, great vibes in Cincinnati, and shout out the organization for trading for Joe Flacco.
All right. So Daniel's very fired up. That's probably the most fired up I've seen him. You guys know me. I give praise where it's due. I give criticism where it's also due. Never when I jump on this show is it a means to bash, or is it personal. It is me talking about the betterment of the Cincinnati Bengals and the greater good of the Cincinnati Bengals. But my message is going to remain consistent regardless of that. I predicted that I could see the Bengals beating the Pittsburgh Steelers. Don't believe me? Well, it's Friday. It's Flashback Friday. Marissa, roll the clip. This is how I feel in my core, my gut, how this game is going to play out. I feel like the Bengals are going to somehow beat the Pittsburgh Steelers Thursday night. And I think it's going to reinvigorate this franchise, this fan base, and people are going to be excited again. Zac Taylor's going to say there's no panic in the building. We all knew what kind of football team we have. They're going to build on that. They're going to beat the Jets. So I saw this happening. I saw this happening for a couple of reasons. I saw it happening because I saw a Pittsburgh Steelers team that was overconfident. I saw a Pittsburgh Steelers team that was coming into this game already feeling like they had it in the bag. They were coming off of an AFC North victory. And I think the expectations for the Bengals were admittedly at an all-time low, right? Considering the fact that, you know, you haven't been able to string together 4 quarters of complimentary football, well, since Joe Burrow went out the game. And now you were able to go out there and you're able to do that exact thing. You know, there are a couple of things we can nitpick on. Couple of things you can nitpick on. You know, I put out a tweet last night where I said, hey, and I by the way, I don't project or pretend to be some football savant. That's not the kind of guy I am, but I am a guy that knows ball, I would say. There were a lot of empty routes being run for Drew Sample in last night's game. And somebody put out a tweet last night. I said, hey, stop putting Drew Sample in red zone on obvious passing plays over Noah Fant. And they essentially, they essentially the next drive put Noah Fant in, and it resulted in a touchdown. It's just like little things that I could nitpick, but I won't nitpick. What I will tell you guys is this was a very good win. And while I expected the Unk Bowl to be a classic in whichever way you describe a classic, something we don't really see a lot in the National Football League, especially in the year 2025, I didn't expect this. I didn't expect the Bengals offense to come out and look this good. I didn't expect TJ Watt to have his worst game of the season. I didn't expect, albeit I probably should have expected it to a degree, I didn't expect Chase Brown to rush for over 100 yards on this Pittsburgh Steelers team, who, by the way, their rushing defense has been pretty bad this year. Just didn't expect that. I didn't expect Dalton Risner to be able to seal one of his blocks off and allow Chase Brown to break off a huge run, because the calling card for Dalton Risner coming in to the Bengals was he's a good pass blocker, he's a bad run blocker. I didn't expect Zach Taylor to put his nuts on the table, but that's exactly what he did time and time again. Now, we can pick and nitpick and choose and talk about what he didn't do here or there, but I'm not going to do that because I've spent a lot of shows talking about what the man is incapable of. Well, let me tell you right now, he showed me what he's capable of as a play caller, but not only what this team is also capable of. And make no mistake about it, when I jump on here and I criticize and I say the things that I say, it's because we've seen flashes in the past of what this team could be. And I think a coach in year 7 should show this a little bit more consistently. So I think that my constructive criticism of Zach Taylor was because we weren't seeing this consistently. And now we have. And now we are. I saw an article come out that said Zach Taylor says he coaches his game each and every single week as if it's his last in the NFL. And I don't agree with that. It was a good headline he wrote, but I didn't agree with that. Last night, he coached like a man on a mission. And, I got people out there that are putting tweets out that are saying, well, it could be funny. Joe Burrow was on the sideline with a coach's headset, and all of a sudden the offense put together. Listen, we're not going to do that. We're going to give praise where praise is due. Zach Taylor, damn near flawless game plan by you. Putting in the hands of a 40-some-odd-year-old quarterback in Joe Flacco, believing that he could get this offense on track, proving that we could get this offense on track. I had a feeling that this might happen, which is what I said on State of the Jungle, which is what I said on yesterday's morning show. I also have a feeling that they're going to go on now to beat the Jets. I have a feeling that they're going to go on now and beat the Bears. I just hope that the other half of it is not coming to fruition. And what the other half is, I hope that when they start to face some of these tougher teams like the Buffalo Bills or the Ravens, once they get healthy, this thing just falls apart and then you give false hope. But for now, I'll sit up here and I'll tell you, Zach Taylor, I'm not wearing a hat, but I'll tip my hat to you. Tip my ball cap to you. Because I thought that you had that team locked in, ready to play. And just maybe, finally, right, I sit up here week in out and I talk about the emergence of Noah Fant. Now, maybe, maybe this will start to unlock Noah Fant's game even further. I think that a lot of people that we weren't expecting to show up has showed up. I want to get to some of these comments in here. Somebody said, this is from Unbun2. He says, much respect, 𝗧𝗧𝗪𝗧 praise. Much respect to 𝗧𝗧𝗪𝗧 praise. He gets all the shit. You got to give him his credit along with it. I agree 100%, which is what I'm doing right now. Somebody said Yoshi's back. We also had a comment on X says Flacco made a ton of audibles last night as well. I don't think Browning had the vision to do that. He just ran the plays called. Again, Joe Flacco is a veteran. And maybe there is some truth to what Mike Tomlin was saying. Why would you trade a quarterback in division, right, to a team that's clearly hurting, and a quarterback, albeit named Joe Flacco, who's won Super Bowls, who's had success in the AFC North, who knows the AFC North better than any quarterback that is currently starting in the AFC North? Maybe there's some truth to that. Maybe there's some truth to that. But man, the Bengals came out. They showed out in such a big way. I also made a comment a few weeks ago after they traded for Joe Flacco. I said, I expect the offensive line to look more settled under Joe Flacco at quarterback. They've done that. They've done that. I want to make sure I tip my cap to a couple of guys really quickly, Dan, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
DJ Turner, what a game. What a game. True cornerback one performance. Standout performance time and time again. Jordan Battle. A couple miscues in there, but what a game. Defensive line, a lot to be desired, I'd say. We got to see more there, but Chase Brown, what a game. Offensive line, Dalton Risner, Jalen Rivers, what a game. Orlando Brown Jr., a guy that we've had on the show, who's a friend of the show, who's a friend of mine, but has also struggled this season. What a game. What a game. Marius Mims shutting out TJ Watt. What a game. So again, I want to make sure people hear this, because anytime that I give any sort of constructive criticism, make no mistake about it, it's not personal. What I say is only business. And we're in the NFL business, and we're in the what have you done for me lately business. And if we're talking about the what have you done for me lately business, we got to discuss the miscues. We got to discuss the struggles, but we also will sit up here and we'll praise and discuss the victories and everything else that went into it. I've got a couple of thoughts. Cam Taylor-Britt was benched as well. Cam Taylor-Britt was a healthy scratch last night. What do you do there, Daniel? What are your thoughts?
At the cornerback position, it might be wraps for Cam Taylor-Britt, and it sucks because I like Cam, and I think Cam has shown flashes. But at this point, it's what are you gonna do? You trusted Josh Newton, you got Dax Hill, you got DJ Turner. I think there's a very real possibility where I would probably look to trade Cam Taylor-Britt, and there's been a lot of rumors out there about these teams that need cornerbacks, whether it's the Philadelphia Eagles or some of these other teams. I do think that you should at least attempt to move off of a Cam Taylor-Britt, because I feel like some other teams would call for Cam. Cam still has potential, whether you guys agree or not. He still has potential. He is young. He has the athletic profile that has shown that he could go up against these big body X receivers. I would personally, at this point, look to potentially trade Cam Taylor-Britt. And the reason why I'm going as far as to say trade is it's not like a Logan Wilson thing where you bench Logan Wilson and he comes in and has a couple big time plays in this game, right? He wasn't a starter, but you needed him for these bigger personnels. He had a huge pass deflection on a play where Darnell Washington was wide open. Darnell, or whether it was John Smith or Darnell, could have gone for 35, 40 yards. Big play from Logan Wilson, but Logan Wilson was active. You made Cam Taylor-Britt inactive. And that's the same conversation that I'm thinking about the Jermaine Burton thing is, hey, if you're not going to even make these guys active on game day, you're saying that, hey, Cam Taylor-Britt is lower than where a DJ Ivy is. That's what the Bengals said. And if you're at that point with a player like Cam Taylor-Britt, I would personally look to trade him. And that's kind of my thoughts on Cam Taylor-Britt. One other thing I think was important, Malik, you brought it up about the offensive line. And Bandos Burner, I believe, was talking about a little bit ago. He said the Bengals haven't blocked like that for Joe Burrow. And let me just say this. what I saw with this Bengals offense is I saw right away Keanu Benton get a big sack against Joe Flacco on the first drive. I saw that first drive like, ooh, Mims and Rivers aren't on the same page. This offensive line, this might be a long game. But what happens? You make the defense respect your game. There is something to be said about these quick passes, right? Getting the ball out in 2.2 seconds, 1.5 seconds. It makes the defense hesitant. Why the hell is TJ Watt going to rush up the field if you're getting the ball out within a second? And that is the pathway to, lessening a opposing pass rush. The same thing. You finally got the rushing game going. This was not a coincidence that the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line looked great today or yesterday. It was not a coincidence. It is your offense making life easier on the offensive line because you're not forcing them to play from behind. You're forcing them to play with a lead at points. You're forcing the defense to respect your running game. Let's not forget, Chase Brown had 100 rushing yards in this game. He wasn't rushing for 2 yards a carry. He broke off multiple big plays because of the offensive line, but that also makes the defense respect your rushing attack. So I just want to make that point on the offensive line because they perform great. And this can be a common occurrence if your offense looks like this. And I'm not bashing on Joe Burrow, but Joe Flacco can't scramble like Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow tends to scramble a lot. I actually think Joe Burrow can learn a lot from what Joe Flacco's doing right now. And I think that this was potentially one of the better things that happened to Joe Burrow's career is to have Joe Flacco in the room. I saw Joe Burrow kind of smiling, and for the first time in a long time, and maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I was looking at Burrow on the sideline. He was kind of looking at Flacco like, oh, this is a guy right here. Like he was looking.
I think there's a mutual level of respect. I think that for a quarterback like Joe Burrow, who's been in MVP talks, who've had a lot of success, who've literally lit the league on fire, I want to be very, very careful. I want to be very, very careful here. I hear what you're saying. I just want to add a little more context to it real quick because I don't want people to say. I think where he can learn a lot from Joe Flacco is the simple things, the throwing the ball away, the understanding when to fight, learn to fight another day, not taking the unnecessary hits. Joe Burrow's never had a true veteran mentor in front of him since he came into the National Football League. It's always been guys who he's been clearly better than. Let's just call it what it is. Brandon Allen, right? He's been better than. There's been countless guys who've been in here that just have never played football at the caliber level that Joe Burrow has. I mean, this is dating back to when Joe Burrow was a rookie. This is when you look around the National Football League, guys like Patrick Mahomes, right? And I can't believe we're having this conversation in year 6 of Joe Burrow, but you look around the National Football League, Alex Smith was that mentor for Patrick Mahomes. Joe Flacco was that mentor for who? Lamar Jackson. They even had Josh Johnson in there. There have been countless quarterbacks around the league that we can name that have had that veteran mentorship. You think about it, even though it's not really working out, Bryce Young, Andy Dalton, you've got Andy Dalton was that for Justin Fields. I guess Andy Dalton isn't a great mentor because these quarterbacks haven't necessarily worked out.
Tyrod Taylor
for Justin Herbert. Like I think it's important to have guys in here who have played football at the high level, who understand the ins and outs, but also I think the longevity. I think Joe Burrow could look at a guy like Joe Flacco, who's playing well into his 40s, and say, hey, that guy isn't the most mobile quarterback. That guy doesn't have all the moves, right? Can't make all the jukes and spins and all that stuff like that. But you know what he is? He's a guy that understands the mechanics of the quarterback position. He understands that, hey, I'm going to throw it into the dirt. I'm not going to let you get a chance to hit me. I'm going to throw it away if things are looking bleak for me. And for a guy like Joe Burrow, we praise his quarterback style because he's the one quarterback in the National Football League, and I got a lot of heat when I said this, that you could say, hey, you know what? We say Joe Burrow's quarterback style is the most quarterback friendly in terms of him being a true pocket passer versus a lot of these guys who rely on their arm talent or their athleticism or their running ability. Joe Burrow, if he learns the simple things, I could see Joe Burrow having a 20-year career. But again, that's going to be in the hands of Joe Burrow, not playing hero ball, especially when you don't need to. This also tells you the offensive line isn't as bad as it's made out to be. Now, part of that could be the run game. And I can't believe we're having this conversation again. What do you know? This offense can work from under center at points. You can incorporate that into the game and have success. The thought process that, hey, you should just never be under center. No successful NFL team has had success with that mentality. Shotgun, 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 drop back, drop back. Like that can't be the thought process every single play. So again, maybe having a guy like Joe Flacco in the room, giving a little bit of encouragement, advice could be a good thing for Joe. Because I got to think that there's a lot of respect that Joe Burrow has for Joe Flacco. If you don't respect the man, which I can't see him not respecting, or the player at this point, which I can't see him not respecting, respect the fact that that guy could walk into Paycor Stadium in the locker room and outside of 𝗕𝗘𝗪 and Orlando Brown Jr., he's the only guy that has won a Super Bowl ring actually as a starter. That is something that you have to look at and be like, I could learn something from that guy. And not only did he win a Super Bowl, he won the Super Bowl as a quarterback for the AFC North. And he had one of the best. Go back and you go watch that playoff run that Joe Flacco had, one of the best playoff runs. It played him into a huge contract that he got with the Ravens. There's a lot that Joe Burrow can learn from Joe Flacco, a guy that's 41 years old, 40 years old, something like that. And there's a lot to be taken away from this. There's a lot he can learn. So we got over 200 people watching us live right now on the YouTube channel. We appreciate y'all. We appreciate that you guys want to hear our voice. You want to see my ugly face in the morning. We appreciate that. And we appreciate you that you're starting your morning with us. If you guys could do us a huge favor, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Turn on post notifications so you guys never miss when we go live or upload content from the TWSN studios. But again, I think that there's a lot that Joe Burrow can learn from a Joe Flacco performance. And I'm certainly hoping that he's taking notes. I certainly hope that that guy is taking notes. I want to keep the conversation rolling if we can, Daniel. I want to get to our fantasy football starts and sits this week. I'm going to get probably some more. I'm probably going to get some more comments in here, right? I'm probably get some more. I'm going to comment on some more comments from this game. But I want to make sure we get our fantasy football guys in here. So again, it's not Fantasy Football Fridays here at TWSN if we don't have the law firm O'Hara and Bradshaw. And so I'm going to turn it over to the guys. Daniel.
All right, guys. So we got ourselves a big fantasy football matchup. And first off, let me ask you guys, how is you guys' fantasy football teams doing right now?
Can't complain. 3-3 at worst with Rashee Rice returning in a lot of spots. So it's wheels up.
Yeah, I know Mike's excited. I see the Rashee Rice news, and I'm thinking about how your fantasy teams are going to thrive. But I'm doing well in that main home league I talked about, where I was, a little slow start. We're on a 2-game winning streak, about to be 3 right now. After trading away Chase Brown, even though he looked pretty good yesterday, I'm feeling good right now.
Awesome. So if you guys are new here, how we do this is we give 2 starts. So Mike will give 2 starts. Steve will give 2 starts. They'll give 1 sit each. And if you guys have any fantasy questions.
I have a question actually for the guy before you guys get going for a second. Joe Flacco has been killing it recently, guys. Is there any value in maybe picking Joe Flacco up as a fantasy quarterback, considering the ridiculous receivers he's throwing to in Cincinnati and guys like Jamar Chase, right? Noah Fant, T. Higgins. I'm just curious because I know that we have a huge Bengal presence that watches this show, and just folks in general. I just wanted to know what you guys' thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I think so. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's Jets next week and then Bears the week after that. Yeah. So I do think so. He's firmly in that like just week to week matchup based pool of quarterbacks because you're just hoping he throws 3 touchdowns, multiple touchdowns. And given the matchups, especially I believe there's 6 teams on bye in week 8. So yeah, I think he can be a matchup based starter for the next couple of weeks. It's not someone I think you want to be planning to rely on for the rest of the season. But given what the Bengals schedule looks like, I know we typically talk about the Jets as this vaunted defense, but they're not that this year. And the Bears, sorry, Steve, I know you could comment on that a little bit further, but it's ugly there as well. So I think he could be a worthwhile spot start for the next couple of weeks.
Awesome. And we had Ronnie, Malcolm, and Iron Man. All three of them said they started Joe Flacco, and they definitely got good returns there. Steve, let's start off with you. Who's your number one start matchup of the week that you absolutely love?
Yeah, one player that I like, kind of regardless of matchup, that I think's being slept on a little bit too much is Keenan Allen. Now, I know he hasn't had the best, few weeks after a really hot start to the year. 8.7, 10.8, 6.7 points over the last few weeks, and that's because he hasn't scored a touchdown. But if you look at the targets, you would kind of think because of the 𝗦𝗢𝗔𝗓𝗏 breakout game, because of how good Quentin Johnson has been, like now, especially recently with the lack of success, you just kind of say, oh, it seems like he's being thrown to the side now. But that's not the case. He's had 7, 9, and 7 targets in the last 3 games. And this week they take on the Colts. And, obviously the Colts have a good defense, which is one side of the coin. But the other side of the coin is I think this has a very good possibility of being a fairly high-scoring game, which could get Keenan Allen back in the end zone to propel him to that, 15-plus point kind of game that he had in weeks 1 through 3. So I really like the matchup. I know the Chargers are depleted by injuries, but I think with Justin Herbert, with how good they've looked this year, and the Colts offense, we didn't think we'd be saying this. They look awesome. I think this could be a pretty good high-scoring game where Keenan Allen, if he continues to keep getting targeted, which it looks like he will, he could find the end zone and he could really thrive this week.
Absolutely love the Keenan Allen look. Mike, who's your start number one favorite matchup of the week?
Yeah, I'm going to go with a quick little 2-for-1 on running backs. I don't think you can move away from Rico Dowdle this week. I know that there's serious questions about what the workload will look like. We can't really turn to any stats or usage numbers because we really haven't seen these guys working in a true committee just yet. But just simply from what we saw, I just don't think that there's any way. I think at a minimum, this is going to be a 60-40 split. I just mentioned the Jets defense being pretty horrific, pretty bottom of the barrel in most defensive metrics, 20th in total defense, 28th in scoring defense, 23rd in rushing defense. So I think this is a solid matchup. The Carolina offense has shown signs of life in the last couple of weeks in some solid matchups. So I think they'll be able to move the ball and get enough touches to Dowdle for him to return value as a running back too. And then the other running back I wanted to quickly mention, one that fantasy managers have probably been very frustrated with this season, but it's Isaiah Pacheco in a matchup against the Raiders. We saw a pretty notable change in his role last week. He recorded 77% of the snaps, which was the highest for any running back in Kansas City this season. But more significantly, he played all 3 of the Chiefs' goal line snaps last week, which was a role that had previously been handed to Kareem Hunt. So if he's going to be the one soaking up those high-value looks close to the goal line, getting opportunities to punch it in, I think he can be just kind of a touchdown and volume-driven guy in your RB2 slot.
Awesome. We have a good question before we get to you guys' other starts. BB Poster said, what tight end is on the radar for you guys for a big game? And we had somebody say Njoku, Goddard, Tyler Warren. Does somebody have a big tight end that they absolutely love for this week?
Yeah, I actually do. I wrote about it on the site yesterday. I think you've got to be starting Zach Ertz this week. Just first looking at the injury report in Washington, it's Terry McLaurin went limited practice, no practice, and Deebo Samuel is back-to-back no practices. So both are trending in the direction to not play. Obviously, that could change. And if neither of them play, it's not going to be like absolute, like this offense is flowing through Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz is going to go dominate the Dallas Cowboys. He's not that kind of guy. But I mean, just a steady dose of underneath targets to get you those PPR points and provide a solid floor. We saw last week with McLaurin out that Ertz drew 23% of the targets. But other than that, even if they both play, I think this is a solid start just because that back half pool of tight ends, you're really just banking on a touchdown. And against the Dallas Cowboys, we've got a 54.5 point total in this game. Just a horrendous Cowboys defense, 2 solid offenses. Could really be a back and forth track meet. Ertz has seen a solid usage in the red zone throughout the season. So yep. I think he's a very, very solid kind of back half of the tight end 1 starting option.
Absolutely love it. He's even a big point when you look at them, how they perform in 2-minute drills and in the red zone. And at the end of the game, Zach Ertz, one of Jane Daniels' favorite targets. Let's go to Steve for another start that you got. And then we got P. Kreischer, a question from him.
Yeah, at this point, I'm a Bears fan, but I haven't been a big DeAndre Swift fan. I think you can kind of feel good about locking him into your RB2 spot, your flex spot, wherever you've been having him throughout the year. Now, regardless of matchup, Swift at this point has shown that he is the bell cow. I'm a big Kyle Monungai fan. I know you are too, Daniel, but it clearly seems like they're not ready to give him the keys yet. And especially with last week where it seems like the Bears were always hesitant. I mean, they drafted him in the 7th round kind of for a reason. That's what they thought of him. And they don't really have anyone else. I mean, Swift looked really, really good last week. And I'm not sure that he's going to be that kind of player for the rest of the season. In fact, I would bet that he's not. But I think that's enough to buy him at least a few more weeks where, regardless of kind of if he's struggling throughout the game, the Bears offense and coaching staff is going to rely on him. And also just the Bears offense as a whole, I think their defense does not look good. And, if you have a fantasy matchup against them, I would highly recommend playing them in a reasonable, manner. But their offense with Caleb Williams, I think they're looking good. And that's an offense that I want to attach myself to, especially this week. They play the Saints, who have been fine, but, their defense obviously isn't the most talented. So it wouldn't shock me if Swift goes out there and has another monster game.
Definitely a big fan of the Bears offense right now. Mike, I'm going to go to you for this question. P. Kreischer said, start Matthew Golden or Xavier Worthy, especially with the return of Rashee Rice. Who are you starting?
Yeah, so for me, it's like more so about that like floor to ceiling combination that you're getting out of these two players. We both know that they can be dynamic downfield playmakers, generate splash plays, go for long touchdowns. That we haven't seen that out of Golden just yet, but we know it's in there. But I think I would be going with Worthy pretty clearly just because of the floor. Golden has not really shown an ability just yet. I don't think it's impossible that it happens, but an ability just yet to like earn a legitimate target share alongside Romeo Doubs and those and Tucker Kraft and the other pass catchers. We just know that this is going to be an offense that's week to week. The targets are super spread out. It's not particularly condensed around one player or a couple of players. And I understand that the return of Rashee Rice is going to take away some of those underneath and design targets from Worthy, but I still believe in his talent and his ability to earn a solid number of looks in this offense. And you combine that with the big playability and his ability to reach a ceiling on a week-to-week basis, I just think he is the safer and preferred start.
And a lot of times when you've got a expect a return like a guy like Rashee Rice, a lot of times the guy that gets slept on is the guy like Xavier Worthy. I think he could actually have a big time game this week. Steve, give me one of your sits for this week. Who's the guy that you are staying away from matchup wise, player wise? Who's somebody you're fading this week?
Yeah, one guy is Devonta Smith, and honestly AJ Brown too, if you have a remotely better option. They take on the Vikings this week, who actually have allowed the least fantasy points per game to wide receivers this year, dead last. And just in general, this Eagles offense hasn't looked the same as years prior. They've never been a high volume passing offense. And things haven't gotten going for AJ Brown. It's still been a struggle throughout the year. Sure, he's had a few big games, but the consistency has never been there, even in good matchups or fine matchups. Now they take on the Vikings, who have a pretty solid defense, especially for fantasy football. They have essentially locked down the wide receiver position. And, even in a matchup where everything's great, things have been rough for the Eagles this year. And in a matchup where everything is great, you still don't feel too good about starting Devonta Smith or AJ Brown this year. But in a game where the matchup is pretty brutal, yeah, I'm just leaving Smith on my bench for sure. I would not start him anywhere. AJ Brown, honestly, I feel him as like a flex option this week at best. And if you have another player that's close to his, production for the week at least, I would bench Brown as well.
For sure. The Eagles offense is absolutely a mess right now. I mean, at some point they're going to turn it around, but I'm with you. I'm definitely sitting Devonta Smith. Mike, who's the guy that you're fading this week?
Yeah, so I would hope that your team is not in a position to be starting either of these guys, but I have already gotten a question about one of them from a friend, and I know just given the state of injuries and whatnot, some people might be, but I would not be touching the Titans backfield this week. It got really, really ugly last week in terms of what they can do fantasy-wise. It was basically a 50-50 split. We saw actually Tyjae Spears lead the backfield in snaps last week, and Spears doubled up Tony Pollard in terms of routes run. So it's going to be really hard in an offense like the Titans to return any sort of fantasy value if you're in a full-blown committee, especially for Tony Pollard. I know Tony Pollard is the more likely player that people are going to be wanting to go to as a potential flex or a gross RB2, but I wouldn't be touching either of them. They're taking on the Patriots this week, who rank top 5 in basically every relevant rushing defensive metric. I know you love Milton Williams there on the inside. He has been wrecking games for the Patriots there. So I don't think you can reasonably start, even if you're just in pretty dire straits. Someone I wanted to talk about we didn't get to, go grab someone like Jordan Whittington off the waiver wire if you're thinking about putting Tony Pollard in your flex this week.
Awesome. And before we get out of this fantasy segment, is there a bold prediction you guys have for this week, whether it's a player that you think could finish as the wide receiver 1, running back 1, quarterback 1? Is there somebody that you guys are penciling in and saying, hey, even if he's an automatic start, like this guy could have a big dominant performance? Steve, I'm curious if you got one.
At quarterback, I really like Daniel Jones this week. He's been cooking again, going back to the Colts. I think this could be a sneaky shootout here. And Daniel Jones has just been awesome. He had a few really good games to start the year where he had over 20 points. He's been consistently dominant, and a lot of people kind of overlook the fact that Jones is a really good runner. I think if he gets things going, he gets another one of those rushing touchdowns that he had earlier in the year. We could see a 25-plus, game where that could even extend to 30 if he, in a game where he has a lot of dropbacks, he gets out of the pocket a little bit more because, this is a tough defense. I could see him going for 30 points this week with how well this offense has looked. Tyler Warren's been cooking. They have good receivers. I think everything just kind of looks really good for Daniel Jones this week.
Love it. Mike, bold prediction for you?
So I think two guys in their – I think you can guess where I'm going with this. Two guys in their returns to NFL action are going to utterly dominate. First and foremost,
Rashee Rice. Here we go. Rashee Rice.
Awesome.
It's the Rashee Rice
awesome.
game.
I don't think that the Raiders are going to be able to push the Chiefs to the point where we get him just absolutely going up and down the field all game long. But I mean, you look at the numbers from last year. I mean, when he was on the field with Mahomes and Worthy, I mean, it was like 40% of the targets. And so I'm excited about him. The other one is George Kittle. In his return, I think he could very, 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 and this isn't a crazy take by any means, but very easily go over 25, 30 fantasy points and just dominate the tight end landscape in week 7. He ran 12 routes to open the season before he got hurt, and he had 4 targets and a touchdown. So especially with the state of this pass catching core in San Francisco, I think he immediately walks back in and is just the focal point of this passing attack. I think Kendrick Bourne is a worthwhile start as well this week, but I think this is going to be the George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey show through the air.
Love it.
Listen, guys, we appreciate y'all for obviously coming on the show each and every single Friday, wishing your fantasy football teams the best of luck. Mike, I always just got to give you a little bit of crap, obviously, because we always know like you're an undercover Chiefs fan, and you always rooting for Rashee Rice, even if it's not something I particularly agree with. But no, appreciate you guys. You guys always do great and give great advice. Wishing your fantasy football teams great this week, and we look forward to having you back on next Friday.
See you guys.
Sure, thanks, Malik.
See you guys. Take care. All right, we're gonna get to some more NFL action here soon, but we've got some UFC stuff to talk about because me and Daniel still have some breakout, some best bets that we want to give out, but want to change things up a little bit here. Gonna go to the UFC, so can't do that without my main man Evan Harris in the building. So Evan, what's going on, man?
How you doing, Malik?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. 𝗦𝗢𝗥𝗓𝗦 is the light heavyweight champion. I beat you again in a head-to-head. I'm just messing with you, buddy, but I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I know it was a little bit of a rough game this past week for your Commanders, so
rough.
Yeah, man. Hey, I
Can't
want to
stay
get to some of
healthy.
your yeah, literally can't stay healthy. But listen, I think you guys will be able to put it all together here shortly. I want to get to some of your best bets for this week's UFC Vancouver card. Obviously, we have Rainier DeRitter taking on Brendan Allen. Both of these guys I rate pretty highly. I'll start off by saying this to you. I don't know if Brendan Allen can hang with Rainier DeRitter for 5 rounds. I just don't know. I just feel like Brendan Allen, his last few fights, his cardio has kind of gotten exposed a little bit. And if you're able to push back on his takedown attempts and you're able to offer up a little bit of resistance to him, he struggles a little bit. But what are your thoughts on it? And I want to get Daniel in here as well.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much with you on that. I like both these guys and what they can bring, but I think Rainier DeRitter is just, I would have him a step above Brendan Allen right now, especially with this being a short notice fight for Brendan Allen. I was impressed with DeRitter in his fight with Whitaker, that he was able to recover from getting knocked down in that 3rd round and hang around for the rest of the fight, pull off a decision win. I just don't know if that's something Allen's going to be able to do in a 5-round fight. We saw him, especially in his fight with Chris Curtis, even though he was able to win that fight, he was fading by the end. If I'm looking at a bet for this fight, I really like Rainier DeRitter to win by finish at plus money. I think that's where I'm headed on this one.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that looking at this fight, just from even a pure divisional standpoint, I think Rainier's got a better shot to beat 𝗕𝗓𝗦𝗓𝗧 than Brendan Allen does, respectfully. And the fact that this is on short notice, and looking at Rainier, he's a very weird fighter because there's been multiple moments. I mean, I bet against him in his UFC debut against 𝗕𝗓𝗪𝗏. He didn't look fantastic in that fight, but he's just rattled off, 3 straight victories. And the Bo Nickel performance was obviously very, very impressive. And then the Robert Whitaker one, where he was losing, was a little bit on the feet, right? Got dropped. But I just don't know if Brendan Allen's got that, that power to dominate him on the feet and really KO him. And I think that I trust his size in the grappling department, not to get mauled by Brendan Allen. I think that his size is a really big factor for me because he's big, 6'4", cuts a lot of weight. Like, this is no slouch, albeit he is more of a jiu-jitsu guy. He is no slouch on the ground. I just don't know if I see the path to victory necessarily for Brendan Allen winning by finish against Rainier.
I want to touch on that a little bit. Rainier DeRitter, when he went up and he beat 𝗬𝗪𝗏 and all that kind of stuff like that, I actually thought it was a stupid game plan by Rainier DeRitter. But I think he wanted to beat 𝗬𝗪𝗏 at his own game, or his expected own game. So he toyed around on the ground with them. Not toyed around on the ground, but he decided to play into those waters, right? And made the fight a little more difficult, when we all knew the clear advantage was him just beat him on the feet. But Rainier DeRitter is really good on the ground. And that's my point. I think I could see him hurting Brendan Allen to the body and then finishing him. I really believe we could see that. I don't think Brendan Allen is, the most, I would say, cut up guy, and him taking this fight on short notice, it feels like this could be a lot for him, right? I think Rainier DeRitter hurts Brendan Allen. I think he gets him out of there by KO, TKO, or submission. If you're looking at those props, you can get that at plus 105. I'm definitely taking a finish in this fight, and it's going to be on the Rainier DeRitter side. I don't think it's going to go to decision. I think I'm taking a finish in this fight, and it's not going to be in the Brendan Allen side. It's going to be in the Rainier DeRitter side. I think Rainier DeRitter gets him out of here. That's a plus 105 if you feel like you want to bet that. Couple other things I want to talk about. 𝗦𝗢𝗏𝗏𝗏's Zahabi's taking on Marlon Chito Vera. 𝗦𝗢𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏's Zahabi's stock has just continued to climb. This is a guy that beat Jose Aldo, right? Was he the last fight for Jose Aldo?
Yep.
He was, right? Yep. He was Jose Aldo's last opponent. Listen, I just don't think that Chito, I know this is the longest layoff of his career, and I really want to choose the underdog in the spot. But I feel like this is going to be a spot where 𝗦𝗢𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 Zahabi is going to keep climbing and proving himself in the UFC. He's technically sound. I really struggle to see where Chito is going to take advantage of 𝗦𝗢𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 Zahabi. But Evan, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, this was a tough fight for me, but I think I ended up siding with the underdog in this one with Chito Vera.
Really? Okay.
I did. The one thing that I wasn't super impressed with in that Aldo performance was the early part of that fight for Zahabi
Yes.
when Aldo
Yes.
was able to hurt him. Vera at this point in his career, I still think is a better finisher than Jose Aldo is. I think he's got pretty brutal power for bantamweight. I could really see this being he took the time off and he finds a finish in this one. I think the other thing that doesn't play into Zahabi's favor is I think the main reason Zahabi won that fight is because Aldo just ran out of gas. I mean, he was completely gassed out in that fight. I'm not sure Vera's going to run out of gas. I think he can probably stick around with him for the majority of this fight.
I disagree with that, though. There was a disgusting elbow Amin Zahabi had landed that hurt Aldo pretty badly in that fight. And Amin Zahabi almost got Aldo out of there at points. Amin Zahabi has a gas tank. He has this ability to just wear on his guys, man. And I know he's going to have his brother Fares Zahabi in the corner and all that kind of stuff like that. I struggle to see where Cheeto is going to, because Cheeto fights with a style where he has low output. Amin Zahabi's going to just touch him with leg kicks, put jabs in front of him, be in his face the entire time. I just feel like his style is going to look a little bit more pleasing to the judges' eyes, because he's going to look like the more active, busier fighter. I see Amin Zahabi winning this fight on the scorecards, guys. I'm just being honest with you. I really do. Danny, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is one I'm very confident goes to decision.
Yes.
And for me, the way I look at this is Cheeto Vera has been a very difficult bet for me. And the reason why is, I look at his past performances. The Davison Figueiredo fight, I believe on Davison, and it was just a weird fight. And Cheeto's always a weird fighter. You go look at his fight against Corey Sandhagen, albeit one of the better fighters in the division. It was like, get going, Cheeto. You're 3 rounds down. Get going. And he doesn't have it. Same thing against Sean O'Malley. It's like, all right, get going, Cheeto. Like, get going. If the opposing fighter can dictate their pace and keep that space, I think that they can have success. And just to be quite frank with you, I just don't believe that Cheeto Vera is worthy. It's plus 105. This is pretty much a pick 'em in my opinion. I don't think Cheeto's a bad bet because this is probably going to the scorecards, but I would probably pick Zahabi here. I just don't see a clear, dominant Cheeto Vera victory. I think if Cheeto wins, it's 29-28 and he wins a split decision. So this is a very tough fight for me to pick. And I'm very confident it goes to decision. So that's probably where I lean with this. So,
well, I want to keep going with this as well. As we continue to move on up the card, we continue to give our thoughts. Cody Gibson taking on Richie Lang. I don't know if they have this correct. And if they do, let me just tell you right now, Richie Lang is going to look good in the first round. He's going to look good in the first round. Cody Gibson is not a guy that I rate too highly. I think that he's sloppy. I don't think he's technically sound. I think Richie Lang has good boxing. He's got good power. There was at one point in time, people were, was his name the Mongolian murderer?
Yeah.
Listen, listen, this is a dude who literally goes out there and he looks to take his opponent's head off. If Cody's going to win this fight, he's going to win this fight in the back end of the fight. He's going to win this fight with the ground control and taking his fight to the ground. He's not going to win this fight on the feet with Richie Lang. To me, it's either the underdog Richie Lang or you're live betting this for Cody Gibson to come back and win this fight in the second round, in the third round, after Richie Lang starts to gas. Because we all know once Richie Lang gets tired, he starts swinging big hooks, which allows his opponents to really just dip up under that and get a takedown. My problem with that is what happens if he goes to the body, goes to the head, and then you get Cody Gibson up against the octagon side. To me, that spells trouble for Cody Gibson. But to me, it's the underdog or you're live betting it or pass. What are your thoughts, Evan?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from on this one. I sided with Gibson, but for a very similar reason. I think that's exactly how this fight's going to go. Richie Lang is a fast starter, and Gibson normally isn't. I think I'm more confident that Richie Lang is not going to be able to get the finish in the first round and is eventually going to tire later on. That'll lead to Gibson getting the last 2 rounds and picking up a decision.
So my advice would be wait to bet Cody Gibson. I don't like the price tag right now. I think it should be a little bit more even. I think if you're gonna bet this fight, because I don't think Cody Gibson is gonna finish him in the first round, I would say Richie Lang is gonna start fast. wait till he starts fast, and then I would then live bet him as it enters into the second round, because if Cody Gibson can withstand the Richie Lang's power in the first, he'll be just fine in the second round. I think he'll get better odds on the Cody Gibson side in the second round as well. Kyle Nelson versus Matt Frevola. What side are we leaning, Ev?
I'm taking a very, very slight lean on Matt Frevola, but it's
Really?
just
Okay.
it's a weird fight for me. I mean, these guys both. The thing with Frevola, like I think Frevola has the technically better offense than Nelson, but it's tough because he's been knocked out twice in a row. This is a tough one. I'm probably laying off this one if I'm betting it, but I just have a very slight lean for Frevola because I think if it goes into a pocket brawl, I'm just going to side with Frevola to land the better shot. But that's really all this fight is to me.
I agree. Daniel, what are your thoughts?
I think that this could be a finish, to be honest with you. And I'm with you. There's no real strong lean on this. I think Matt Frevola for me he's been a weird one as well, because he's like this past 2 fights. I mean, against BSD, I was expecting a better performance than that. And I think that he was actually looking fine before he got head kicked in the face and got KO'd. Like, I think that this could be a bounce back here to where you look at, Matt Frevola and say, hey, anybody can look at the stat sheet and say, hey, he's got knocked out in his past 3 fights that he's lost. Like, okay, if you're going to take the Kyle Nelson side, maybe take a KO. But I do think that this could be a get-right spot for Matt Frevola. It is interesting, though. His last 7 fights have ended in a KO, whether he's KO'd somebody or he's gotten KO. So I think that's very interesting. So maybe look towards the under, because this could be a fast-paced fight in the pocket type of fight.
I'm going to offer a little bit more context to this. Kyle Nelson, you may not know his name, but goddamn it, this dude is a dog. Let me just say this right now. It's on a Canada card. He's Canadian. He knocked out Bill Algeo. I think he beats Matt Frevola. Guys. I don't like this for Matt. I do not. Because I think Kyle Nelson, he's the name that you see pop up on your screen when the UFC matchmakers call you and you say, I'll take that fight. And then you get in there and you're like, why did we take this fight? That's who Kyle Nelson is for me. Because there have been times that I bet against Kyle Nelson and I'm sweating. Not because I go into it, because I feel so confident going into it, but he just tends to make these fights challenging. I agree with you, Daniel. It could be a knockout either side in this fight. That makes me even more concerned on the Matt Frevola side, because Kyle Nelson isn't a guy that really, he tires typically in the 3rd round at the end, but he's there in the 1st and the 2nd round, and he hits hard. He hits like a Mack truck, man. I'm being honest with you. And whatever he puts out to these guys, he thwarts their offense. So I think Matt's going to be in for a tough fight, unless Matt Frevola goes out there and says, you know what, I'm going to implore my wrestling, get him tired. And then even that's very difficult to do, to get Kyle Nelson to the ground and keep him to the ground. I don't know, man. Kyle Nelson is a guy that I wouldn't mind sprinkle a little bit. But again, I'll have that on the Patreon one. A couple of things I want to continue to finish looking, but right now my lean is Kyle Nelson. That's where I'm leaning right now. I want to talk about 𝗦𝗢𝗥𝗕𝗦𝗢, right? Taking on 𝗪𝗔𝗔𝗓𝗔. I don't know butcher the guy's name. Anyway, I got 𝗦𝗢𝗥𝗕𝗦𝗢 winning this fight by either KO, TKO, or submission. What are your thoughts, Evan?
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I think there's a pretty clear path here for him. He's minus 300 for a reason. I mean, he's come into the UFC, put people on notice. He's looked great doing it. I mean, he skipped the Dana White's Contender Series entirely because he was an LFA champion. And I'm just concerned that his opponent being out of action for over a year, going against a guy who's won 2 fights in the last, I think, 6 months, and doing so as well as he has, like, I think this is going to be a pretty dominant performance. I think this could be done in the 1st, 2nd round for Bekhoev.
I agree. Dan, you don't share anything differently on that, right? Okay. One last thing I want to get to before we let Evan get out of here. We've got Manon Fiorot taking on Jasmine Jasudavicius. And I love the fact that the UFC believes so much in Jasmine Jasudavicius that they want to give her the spot. I love the fact that they say, you know what? We love you so much, Jasmine. We're going to put you in the UFC game. I don't love Jasmine to win this fight. I don't. Manon Fiorot is a problem. I don't know why she wasn't able to get going against the champion Valentina Shevchenko. But yeah, of course I know why she was able to get going. She was going up against the Bullet. Of course it was going to be a tough fight for her. But I think Jasmine Jasudavicius, albeit I think she will be in the title picture at some point. Man, this feels like a get-right spot for Manon Fiorot. What do you guys thought? And I think Manon wins this fight by either KO, TKO, or points. What are your thoughts, Evan?
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. Jasmine Jasudavicius has been impressive on her way up the ladder, but I just don't have her in that Manon Fior range. I think this fight reminds me a lot of Manon Fior and Erin Blanchfield. With Jasmine Jasudavicius is a decent. I could put her in the decent striker who does her best work on the ground. Fior is a far better striker than Jasudavicius. But if she doesn't think you can give her something on the feet and she just has to worry about you taking her down, she is able to stay up, and that's what she did against Blanchfield, and she picked her apart for 5 rounds. I think the problem that she couldn't do against Shevchenko was that she thought Shevchenko could work with her on the feet. I don't think she thinks Jasudavicius can work with her on the feet. I think this is going to be a clinic from Fior, probably by late TKO or decision.
Yeah, I think this is pretty simple. I look at Jasmine Jasudavicius, and albeit it was three years ago something, she lost 3 fights by decision. I remember the fight against oh my God, Tracy Cortez. She lost by decision, and Natalia Silva. Natalia Silva is, one of the biggest names right now in women's MMA. Hey, she's the next kickboxer. She's the next great. She just beat Alexa Grasso, and she beat Jasmine Jasudavicius. I think that this is a very simple read. To be honest with you, this is one, and I'm going to knock on wood. This is my parlay piece of the entire weekend. Moneyline Manon Fiorot, and I do agree. I think she could get a round 2, round 3 TKO. I'm probably going to just say take the points, but I think Manon is a parlay piece, and I think I'm probably going to throw the bag at a little Manon Fiorot by decision and Manon Fiorot moneyline because she's a better fighter. She just lost to the champion. The champion is one of the best champions we've seen in women's MMA, and I look at Jasmine's fight, her recent fight, like different styles. She just beat Jessica Andrade, completely different style. While she finished her, I believe, it's a completely different style than what Manon is. Manon is a stand-up, pick you apart at the range and kind of piss you off because of how good of a striker she is. And she's also strong enough to take you down if she wanted to. So a very clear Manon Fiorot win for me on Saturday.
Yeah. Don't be shocked if Manon gets her out of there by KO. But listen, Evan, that's all the time that we got with you, right, man? I know you got a busy schedule ahead of you. Evan's a busy guy, man. We're just gracious that you could give us your time, man. Join you have you join us on the show, man. And hopefully we can actually get you in studio here shortly because I know you got some stuff coming up. You should be able to come down here. So we're hoping we can make that happen, man. So we appreciate you, brother. Make sure you guys give Evan a follow. Evan's gonna have all his best bets. I think he's gonna be sending some stuff into the Patreon. We'll have our best bets as well. Make sure you guys subscribe to the Patreon for all of our plays. But Evan, thank you, my man.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. We'll talk to you. That was Evan Theo Harris. Again, a lot of stuff we're getting into, man. I'm really, really pumped up about just about, obviously this UFC card and everything that's happening there. Daniel, I know that we're going to give we're going to talk some NBA, but we're going to hold off on that. We'll hold off on that for Monday's show. I want to get to your best bets for this week's NFL action. I just want to say thanks to everybody who tailed. I gave the Noah Fant prop out, right? Gave the Noah Fant prop out last night, plus 440. He hits for a touchdown. He bangs. His reception bangs. Jaylen Warren's receptions bangs. So I was really, really happy about that. Saw some people tag me and some stuff. They want some money. I lost a bet that would have changed the landscape, I would say, last night by 1 catch. DK Metcalf, who I'm officially putting on the no bet list. But this bet would have been well over 6 figures, right, Daniel? And he wasn't able to cash last night. It's all right. We'll take it on the chin and we'll get better. We'll keep getting better. But, at the end of the day, we love giving you guys plays. We hope that you guys subscribe to the Patreon there because the more important part is the Patreon were winners last night, right? Yeah. Daniel banged with the Jamar Chase plays. Yeah. Daniel saw the vision. He saw the light. But Daniel, tell me some of your favorite plays for this week 7 NFL action. I can't believe we're even in week 7 right now, man.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. And I've got 3 plays that I absolutely love. And once again, go to the Patreon. We have a full best bets on there. Number 1 was something that I've seen recently, and this is a matchup that I just like this too much. I think the New England Patriots versus Tennessee Titans is a very fun game, right? You got Mike Vrabel's return to Tennessee. This has got some drama involved, but I think you also got a team that is coming off of firing their head coach in Brian Callahan. I think this is a closer game than people expect. 7-point spread. People expect this to be a blowout. I think this is a lot closer than people expect. And what I'm going to do is I like Drake May's over passing yards. This is a guy who has been a top 5 quarterback in the NFL so far through 6 weeks. He has performed elite. He has been one of the best deep ball throwers. He's got Stefon Diggs there. And I look at his passing yards at 234. That's a walk in the park for him. You look at what he did last week. He had multiple deep balls that got overturned because one was a stupid penalty. The other was a holding call that wasn't even there by Stefon Diggs. 235 passing yards is a walk in the park for Drake May. And like I said, one of my favorite reasons I like this game is I think this is a closer game than people expect. Cam Ward is a very good player. He just hasn't had the consistency. And now you kind of get Brian Callahan out of there. And a lot of times you look at what Antonio Pierce did with the Las Vegas Raiders, rattled off a couple wins as soon as they fired their head coach. This tends to happen. And instead of taking that team to win, because I still think the Patriots are the better team, I'm going to expect a closer game. And in a closer game, Drake May's going to have to throw the ball. I think 230 is a walk in the park. I actually like him to have 250 plus. Looking at a couple other games, another prop that I absolutely like. I like looking at the Panthers versus Jets. This is simple for me. Rico Dowdle, anytime touchdown. The Jets defense has been atrocious, and I'm going to back the guy that has 2 straight 200-plus rushing yard games. This isn't getting talked about enough. This guy was undrafted. This guy was cast away by the Dallas Cowboys in 200-plus yard rushing games, the 2 highest rushing totals of the entire season so far for the Carolina Panthers. I understand Chuba Hubbard might be coming back, but Rico Dowdle is going to keep his hot streak going, and him to score a touchdown is plus money. Plus money for a guy who's had 2 of the greatest rushing games that we've seen over the past 3 seasons. Give me Rico Dowdle score a touchdown. And another one I really like, looking at the Colts versus the Chargers game, I'm all in on Tyler Warren, man. I'm all in. This guy is in the Offensive Rookie of the Year conversation, and he has scored a touchdown in the past 2 weeks. This guy is getting used all over the formation, and quite frankly, he is one of Daniel Jones's favorite targets. So looking at Tyler Warren, I like his receptions at 5.5. May seem a little high, but this guy is the engine of their offense outside of Jonathan Taylor, obviously, but they're getting involved in the quick screens. They're getting involved in the red zone. Tyler Warren is a huge target. He is a first-round pick for a reason, and he is an Offensive Rookie of the Year candidate for a reason. So I'm a huge, huge fan of Tyler Warren. Yeah. And one more real quick. George Kittle, like Mike was talking about, I'm a big fan. I think he has a big matchup this week, and I like his over receptions. Give me George Kittle have at least 4 receptions in his return from his injury.
Appreciate it, Daniel. Appreciate it, man. Again, I'm looking forward to all of our plays that are going to be on the TWS and Patreon. But more importantly, we want to thank you guys for making our show a part of your regular morning routine. Again, I want to thank all the guests that we had on here. Obviously, O'Hara and Bradshaw, the law firm, Evan for the UFC plays. And hopefully you guys join us back here again Monday for another edition of the Sit Down Morning Show. Obviously, Tim Andrews will now be joining us in studio every Monday and Thursday, which I'm really excited about. If you guys didn't get a chance to catch yesterday's show, it was electric. It was fun. It was entertaining. I'm excited to have another face joining us on the morning show. But remember, there's only one way you guys should be waking up, talking sports, debating sports, enjoying your coffee in the morning with your friends, with us, and that is the right way. We hope that you guys enjoy week 7 of NFL action. We'll have college football plays and all that for you guys. But until next time, we'll see you.
This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well, you better know now because it's